In this video, we'll go over the Laravel CSRF protection layer. I'll explain how it works, why we use it, why we always have to send that pesky CSRF token, and towards the end, I'll show you why you should never use GET requests to perform actions with side effects. Here I have a Vue SPA with a Laravel backend. It's kind of like Twitter or X or whatever else is called nowadays. The thing is, I can post tweets. I write stuff in this box, click this button, and here's my tweet. Now, John Doe here posted something interesting. Like, yeah, I'd like to get some free bitcoins, why not? So let's check this out. Well, I'm clicking, but this website doesn't seem to be working. Yeah, anyway, I'll move on with my day reading some Laravel Sanctum documentation. Then, after some time, of course, I come back to my fake Twitter to see what people have been posting. So I'll refresh and wait a minute. What the hell is this? I never posted this. I never did this. How could this happen? That, my friends, was a CSRF exploit. CSRF stands for Cross-Site Request Forgery, and it's a type of exploit where a bad actor tricks authenticated users of your application into performing unwanted actions. I tried visiting a seemingly harmless website, which took advantage of the fact that my fake Twitter app didn't have proper CSRF protection in place and executed an action I didn't want to. It posted that crappy Bitcoin tweet on my profile. This was possible because, and even more so in the past, cookies were automatically included with every request regardless of where that request is coming from. And since Laravel Sanctum uses cookies to authenticate, our server saw that as a completely valid and authenticated request. If we take a look at the evil website, we see all it has is a form sending a post request to our fake Twitter post endpoint, but with the content already filled in with this crappy Bitcoin message. Then the form is automatically submitted and the page is closed to avoid any suspicions. Let's go ahead and adjust this code so we can manually submit the form and have a look at the request being sent out. I'll comment these two lines out and then I'll add a button with send. If we go in the browser and visit the evil website directly, here's our button. We can click it, but before we do that, let's open up the DevTools and see what cookies we have. We'll go to Application, Cookies, and we have no cookies, which is correct. This evil website cannot have direct access to our fake Twitter cookies. However, let's go to the Network tab, submit the form, and if we inspect the request, we see that even though we are on the evil website, our request does include the authentication cookies, which will allow this request to go through and create that stupid Bitcoin tweet on our account. Now, the reason why this is possible is due to a session cookie misconfiguration on our Laravel backend. If we open up the session config file and scroll all the way down, we have this same site configuration value. This is our first defense mechanism against CSRF exploits. Right now, it's incorrectly set to null. This basically tells browsers to always include the session cookie in requests, even if those requests are coming from a different website, like in our evil example. What we want here is lax. Lax will instruct the browser to only include cookies for requests coming from within our website. If we are to go back in the browser, log out, relog in, and then go to the evil website, refresh and submit the form, instead of creating that crappy Bitcoin tweet, because cookies are no longer included in the request, we are redirected to the login screen. So always make sure to set your session same site config value to lax. However, properly configuring session cookies only helps us with authenticated requests. Sometimes we may have endpoints that don't necessarily require the user to be authenticated. For example, if I go to my web routes file, I have this contact endpoint that receives some content and sends an email. While it doesn't require authentication, it would be great for this endpoint to only be accessible from within our website. Because right now, if we go to fake Twitter, we have a similar evil link here that, when clicked, sends the same crappy Bitcoin message, but now as an email. If I go to my Laravel log file, which is set as the current mail driver, we'll see that crappy message coming through. So how do we prevent this? Introducing anti-CSRF tokens. These not only guard us against this specific scenario, but also team up with the same site lax cookie for added CSRF protection. Here's how it works. When the initial request to our Laravel app is made, a session is created. Inside that session, Laravel will put a randomly generated token. That same token is returned to the browser as an encrypted cookie, also known as the CSRF token cookie. Now, subsequent requests will have to send that CSRF token as a header or as a form value. Then, if the token sent with the request does not match the token saved in the session, Laravel will return a 419. Let's have a look at the actual flow. The first thing I'm going to do is delete all my active sessions. Since I'm using the file session driver, we'll find those under storage, framework, and sessions. I'll delete all of them. Then let's hop in the browser and clear out the application data so we no longer have any session-related cookies. I'll go ahead and refresh, and then relog in. If we switch back to the editor, we'll see that a new session file has been created. The name of this file will match the Laravel session cookie we have in the browser. The only difference is that this one is encrypted. Then if we go and open the session file, we see that we have this token value right here. This token will match the one in the browser. Again, the only difference is that this one in the browser is encrypted. When another request is made, the CSRF token will have to be sent as a header. Laravel will then compare the two tokens, the one from the request with the one in the session file, and if they don't match, it will return a 419 response. In our case, we are sending the correct token, so the request goes through. Now, this token verification is done by the Verify CSRF token middleware. Right now, this wildcard here exempts any endpoint we have from CSRF token verification. So you should never do this. I only did it for demonstration purposes. Ideally, you would only allow access for external services that need to communicate with your app. For example, say you have like a Stripe webhook that needs to receive notifications. Okay, so now that we've removed the wildcard from the accept array, all endpoints apart from the Stripe webhook one will require a valid CSRF token. So if we go ahead and clear out the Laravel log file, go back in the browser, click that malicious link a bunch of times, and then check our log file again, we see that we're no longer receiving that crappy Bitcoin message. That's because the contact endpoint now requires a valid CSRF token, and that evil website simply has no easy way of obtaining one. We're now fully protected against CSRF attacks. However, there's one more thing you must never do, and that is, you should never ever perform state-changing actions such as creating, updating, or deleting data via GET requests. If we go to our web routes file and change the contact endpoint to a GET request, and then go to our evil website and update the form, if we go ahead and click the malicious link again and check the log file, we see that crappy email again. That's because even with same site set to lax, cookies are still included when using GET requests. And the Verify CSRF token middleware doesn't check GET requests. So never use a GET request to perform a state-changing action or a side effect like in this case of sending this email. Use GET only to retrieve data, never to change it. And it's the same for create post. If we change this into a GET request, and we'll also have to update the endpoint because we already have a GET post here, so let's say post/create, then we'll go to the evil website and make the form send a GET request to post/create. And let's also change the content to never ever use GET requests to perform state-changing actions. Remove the send button and make the form auto-submit on page load. Now if we go in the browser, click the malicious link, refresh, and here's another crappy tweet we never intended to post. So any CSRF protection you might have goes out the window when using GET requests for state-changing actions. So never do that. Use the more appropriate post, put, patch, and delete requests. And that is everything you need to know about CSRF protection in Laravel. To summarize, always set your session cookies same site to lax, always enforce the Verify CSRF middleware, except for routes that need to communicate with external services, and never ever use GET requests to perform state-changing or side effect actions.